This morning is Janus looks both ways, and that comes from the Roman god Janus that you may have seen depicted with one head and two faces, one looking backwards and one looking forward. Janus looks both ways because he's the Roman god of transitions. Where have we been? Where are we going? And it was often said that these were also moments of great celebration because Janus was always present at Roman weddings and new openings and new beginnings, but also during funerals because it was a time of great transition then. It said that Janus also often was depicted on the gates of Roman houses or over the doorways because people were going in and going out. And I think it's a pretty cool image for us to have at this time of year. Janus looks both ways, just as we do. It's also interesting that we got the month of January from the god Janus. The Danish philosopher Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards. Have you been reading this?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
He's one of my favorites.
I'd love to get a response when I just say a word. So, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. What a drag. I get a chance to look back and try to make sense of things in my life and the things that are around me, but that's done. I have to turn with that information and that life experience into the unformed and the unknown, which is what we're doing this time of year. I look back at all my plans and all my mistakes, and I want to correct some things. And I make a New Year's resolution by hands. How many people actually have made a resolution this year? Couple. All right. I won't ask you to share them, but ours in my home are things like, okay, we're going to get back to the gym. Ha. We're going to start eating healthy. Basic things like we're going to try to finally get out there and clean up the garage and organize it. And then life gets lifey, and it's a year later and going, we should get out there and clean up that garage, get back to the gym and eat healthy. This is a time where lots of us make these great New Year's resolutions to ourselves. And I want to read something to you I found online. It said, if you feel inspired to use the new year to help you reset or change some habits, great. And yet, the old you has survived every terrible day. Every hard thing, every awful circumstance, and every heartbreak you've ever felt. The old you is a fighter. That is worth celebrating. Life is understood backwards. When I look back on it, the real trick for me is to forgive myself for not knowing earlier what only time could teach me. A lot of times when I look back over my shoulder, I can celebrate certain things, but I think there's kind of a human default to pick at the things that didn't go well, things that I wish had been different, so that I can prepare and change and look forward and do it better. But there's a huge component for me, if I'm going to be in the present and feel fulfilled and happy and able to exhale, that I need to forgive myself for not knowing certain things earlier that only time was going to teach me. I want to share a story from one of my children. They were probably about 4 years old. They were in their car seats in the back seat. Dad's driving them to daycare. And we pulled up at a stop sign, a stoplight, and we looked over, and there were some men digging. The ditch was already pretty wide and deep, but there were men standing around, some leaning on shovels and watching, and other men actually in there digging around and working, but they were putting cable down. It looked like internet cables. So my daughter Grace, out of curiosity, goes, "Daddy, what are those men doing?" And I said, "Well, honey, I think what they're doing is they're putting cables in the ground so that people have internet, so they can, connect their computers to it, and they can watch TV at home, like, big comfy couch and that kind of stuff, something she could really do." But that's what they're doing. They dug that hole, they're laying cable, and that's gonna go to all the houses around here so people can watch TV and have the internet. Long silence. And then she said, "I didn't know that." It's like, honey, you're not supposed to. It's okay that you don't know that. It's the first time you've ever seen it. And I can allow that with my 5-year-old. But for some reason, I have a difficult time remembering those words for me. I couldn't have known any better if I hadn't had the life experience or I hadn't had someone to teach me. I didn't know that is okay. How could I? So forgiving ourselves for not knowing earlier what only time can teach is an important aspect, I think, of being present for the new year, for being spiritually grounded, for being okay in your skin. I'm just learning like everybody else here. I love that meditation and the reading that you did, Noel, because it tracks with this. These are some words from Sally. It just seems appropriate when we're thinking about new beginnings, the new year. Where are we? Where am I going? He says, for last year's words belong to last year's language. And New Year's words await another voice. And to make an end is to make a beginning. There are things in our lives that are scary, that I need to let go of, that I might need to end. I mean, symbolically, we have this time of year. We just had the solstice. We're getting ready for what's ahead of us. But in the ending of that year is the seed of this new beginning for the new. And so it is in our lives when we need to make decisions about things we may need to let go of. At the end, each ending is a beginning. We are constantly learning and growing and sloughing off and embracing the new. And that can be really scary. So we want to sit and think about it. What have I learned? What do I want going forward? Ring out the old. Bring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. Tennyson writes, the year is going, let him go. Ring out the false and bring in the true. And that is the challenge, particularly these days. What is the false? What is the true? I think each of us, in our own way, in our own value systems, know what resonates. We know what's true. We know what's false. We know what's true. We know what we need for ourselves. The purpose of life, Emerson writes, is not to be happy. That's a right too. I cannot tell you how many people I've ever met in a therapeutic environment when I ask them, so tell me what you want. And I go, all I want is to be happy. I've said it myself. I'm sure each of you has at some point or the other. All I want is to be happy. Here's this early Universalist, this early Unitarian, saying the purpose of life is not to be happy. It's to be useful. It's to be honorable. It's to be compassionate. And I'm going to add with others and ourselves. It's to have it make some difference that you lived and lived well. Last year's words belong to last year's language, so next year's words await another voice. And to make an end is to make a beginning. You're constantly learning and growing. But the purpose of our lives is not to be happy, it's to be useful. It's to live honorably. It's to be compassionate with other people, ourselves, and ultimately have it make some difference that we have lived and lived well.